Awesome. Carmen, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited we finally got it together. I've been so looking forward to meeting you. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Very excited.
Yeah, okay. It looks like we're live everywhere. So anybody that has questions for Carmen today, just know that you can pop them in the chat and I'll make sure that we answer them for you. Carmen, I found your work. So Carmen is a psychological astrologer, and I found your work by watching one of your workshops on Kepler. So if you guys are not familiar with Kepler, it's a wonderful astrology college type place that online you can take many different courses from wonderful astrologers. And Carmen was in there talking about the 8th house and the 12th house, and I was like, oh, these are my people. And yes. I loved your workshop so much. I know that you have another one coming up soon at Kepler, so I'm going to put that in the link for everybody. I'll do it a couple times throughout our show. But today, we're going to talk about psychological astrology. We're going to talk about the focus of Carmen's work, which has been largely 8th and 12th house to serve 8th and 12th house people. So if you have planets in the 8th or 12th house, or they're activated in some way, or you have loved ones with planets in the 8th or 12th house, you have found your astrologer. I want you to check out Carmen's work and her books. And so, just by way of a brief introduction here,
sure,
I want to read your bio, Carmen, and then I'll let you rephrase it.
Yeah, perfect.
So Carmen, let's see, interview. I pulled up in Phoenixes and Angels, Mastering the 8th and 12th Houses. This is a description of the book. I thought I had, there you go. Carmen Turner Schott, MSW, LISW, is a licensed clinical social worker, psychological astrologer, author, and teacher with national and international clientele. She's been researching astrology, trauma, healing, and transformation for the past 28 years, which is a cycle of Saturn, everyone. Carmen began her astrological work at the age of 16 after an experience with a glowing ball of light in her doorway, and began studying metaphysics and the Edgar Cayce material at that time. So she received her undergraduate degree in psychology from, is it Fontbonne?
Yeah,
University in St. Louis, Missouri in 1997, and her Master of Social Work degree at Washington U in St. Louis, Missouri in 1999. She's the author of 9 books on astrology and healing. Here are 2 of them we're going to talk about today. Carmen was born with intuitive abilities, like many astrologers, right? And she inherited these from her maternal grandmother and uses these spiritual techniques to better serve her clients and those who reach out to her for assistance. She's an avid dream researcher, of course, 12th house mojo, who uses dream incubation to help assist others on a deeper soul level. As a certified Reiki master, energy healer, quantum healing hypnosis practitioner, which is QHHT, and Akashic Records international consultant, she brings her knowledge of astrology and specific training in various healing modalities and specialized techniques to help with trauma recovery, healing, and psychological processing. Her goal is to share her love of astrology with others and make it understandable on a basic, practical level to help others see what a powerful psychological tool astrology can be in our lives. She believes astrology can help us heal, transform, and become more resilient. So I want to put her website up so that you guys have access to it. Usually I can click on it and it's like, it lets me post it. It's not doing that. So we'll give it a second. But Carmen, that's so much, that's why I love your work, is because you bring the psychological healing aspect to astrology. I join you and having that master's degree, mine's in health psychology. That's where I started. Nice. So for me, like I my first astrology class when I was 20, he looked at my 12th house and he was like, what do you want to do? And I said, I just want to help people. And he said, okay, let's get you a degree that is going to be respectable. And then you can keep studying astrology.
Exactly.
At the time, right? Astrology wasn't mainstream.
Yeah, sure.
So, to find your work for me, I was like, yeah, that's a missing piece in astrology. We can geek out about astrology.
Oh, yeah.
without that psychological healing piece that you bring in, it can be very dry, and it actually can leave people more confused and more hanging than healing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how I really got into this, when I had these experiences I couldn't explain, when I was growing up, and especially, when I was 16. Just a lot happened. I lost one of my friends unexpectedly through an accidental shooting, and saw that glowing ball light in my doorway that same year, and just had very empathic and would feel people's energy and just kind of know things, and no one in my life could explain it to me. My parents were like, "Oh, it's just your imagination," and all this. And I started studying astrology after that glowing ball light, really, and got my first book about Virgo, and just started reading. When I started learning my chart and just practicing on my own by hand. Back then, we didn't have computers. So I was just reading, and I realized, oh my God, I got all this 8th house and I got all this 12th house. Oh my gosh, I lost my friend. This is loss of a loved one at a young age. All these things started making sense, and it completely explained my experiences and why I had these vivid dreams that would happen, as a 12th house sun and Venus. And it just all made sense. And I'm like, I want to learn more about this, because I always wanted to be a counselor. I was taking psychology in high school, and I'm like, that was my goal. But I was actually a basketball player. So my Aries 8th house stuff came out on the basketball court, and I was a 3-point shooter. I got recruited to play basketball at Fontbonne. And when I went there, I was leaning towards teaching or being a school psychologist, something like that. And I decided to do the psychology route and social work route. And I just started doing charts for fun in St. Louis, for free. I just meet people on campus and meet them at bread company or, restaurants and stuff. And they're like, oh my God, this is so accurate. This is so cool. And they'd start to cry. And how do you know this? I'm like, this is your chart, and I start realizing this is an amazing psychological tool that, just like Myers-Briggs or 4 lenses or True Colors, any of these team building things that help you get into personality, it's more deep and it's just as accurate. And I just made it my mission to learn it, and started, my little business, really charging. I didn't charge for years. I mean, I was just like donation,
Yeah.
And then I had a normal social work job. I worked with runaway teens. I worked in adoption preservation, youth services, and then I've been working with sexual assault survivors, domestic violence survivors for about 28 years now, and trauma survivors. But, I've worked with kids. I've done all that stuff, and on call, home visits, all that stuff, working with police stations, going to court. And so I've always wanted to help, but astrology has always been my side job. I've always had 2 jobs. My Gemini on the 10th house cusp there, I get bored easy in one job. So I always have to be doing 2 jobs. So I've always done both: a normal practical counseling job and then my astrology business. So, and it's just been a passion. And I started realizing, like, it can be confusing. When I first started trying to figure out the 12th house and 8th house, there wasn't hardly any books out at all in the 90s about that. And they were scary. And I mean, the stuff that was it was real negative, to have 12th and 8th house and when I would read it, I'm like, now I know that it's a blessing to have 8th and 12th house plants, because it blesses you with spiritual gifts, spiritual abilities. And I wouldn't trade in my dreams for anything, because having dreams and these experiences just confirm that there's more to life than meets the eye, and that we are here for a reason. And I know I'm a soul, and we're all souls, and we have a purpose. And if I didn't have astrology, I probably wouldn't really believe that and have that kind of a optimism about there's a reason we're here. You know what I mean? And so I wouldn't change some of the harder things with the 12th and 8th house, or learning boundaries, learning to self-care, learning to take care of yourself and things like that. And learning to heal and to let go and forgive. And when people hurt you, the 8th house stuff. And that really was something that I wouldn't trade either, because all those hard experiences just make us stronger. And it's made me who I am today. I'm very different than I was when I was 16. I was way sensitive. I would cry if someone cried, and I got my feelings hurt so easily. And, as we get older, we get a thicker skin, a tougher skin, so to speak. And I just got more wiser about my chart and what I was meant to learn. And it was some of these lessons, and everything's in your birth chart. And that's why I love it. And I think that people get shied away from astrology because it's so complex in their mind. It's all these symbols, it's math, longitude, latitude, it's all this stuff that they don't understand. So I just try to focus on the basic energy, that astrology is energy.
Mm-hmm.
And just like anything that has energy in it, and it affects us. The moon cycles affect us because it's energy. Our body's made up of water. The moon affects the tides of the ocean. Of course, it's going to affect us. So I try to teach basically very simple about the astrology energy so everyone can understand it and like it. People that don't believe in it, I kind of want to convince them that it's real. That's kind of my and my normal job. Some people, oh, Carmen's a goofball. She believes in the Mercury retrograde. And I always tell them, the full moon, guys, or all the teens are going to be running away this weekend, and they'd be at the police station like, Carmen, what's going on? I said, it's a full moon. I told you guys. And so they started seeing that it was true, this energy.
Mm-hmm.
And police officers will tell you that their busiest time in calls is during the full moon.
Mm-hmm.
There's accidents, more people at the ER. Animals, they act out as well during full moon. So we feel insomnia, maybe not sleep as well, and irritable, things like that. And we're impacted by this energy. And you don't need to know how it all works or understand all the complexity of it. You just need to know the basics of your own chart and the basic energies, and you can validate your own experience, and you can gain self-awareness and understand other people. That's kind of the goal, help and understand others, that what, sometimes they can't help it. That's their personality. And once I realized that okay, I need their chart, I'm like, and then you just don't take things as personal anymore. Hey, I mean, I got a couple friends that have a lot of Gemini, and they change their mind a lot. And I learned not to take it personally, like, hey, let's do this together. We're going to do this. And the next thing I don't think I want to do that. I want to do this now. And then it changed. And I'm a Virgo. So I'm very much like, when I commit, like, I'm in. I'm like, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Wait, you completely blindside me here. But I get to where now I know them. And I'm like, hey, let's think about it a little bit before we push forward, because I'm afraid you might change your mind on me. So, you get people, and their strengths, their personalities, and you work with them, that way. And you don't take it personal. They're not trying to hurt you. They're just being them. They have their own, they're changeable. Some people are changeable. Some people are indecisive. Some people have a temper, and that they're over it quick, like an Aries. They may tell you what they think and get upset, and then they're over it, and they're like, okay, let's go eat. And you're like, wait a minute, you just blew up on me. I mean, I love it. I love it, and it's just such an important tool that I wish that mainstream, like psychology and in the therapy clinical world, would embrace it more. Because it's just curious to me. Like, I'm trained in 4 lenses. And it's based on Myers-Briggs. The 4 colors, and it's green, gold, blue, and orange, and it's really the elements. And the same in astrology. Blue people are relationship people. They're sensitive. They're emotional. That's the water element. Oranges are like fire. They're like risk. They like freedom. They like change. They're bold. Oh, that's the fire signs. And golds are earth. And greens are air. And it's the same thing. But I don't know why people don't see that. So I'd be training people in the military on these 4 lenses, these 4 personality colors, and I'm like, this is astrology 101. And so I'm working on a book right now, kind of trying to blend that a little bit, how to show the similarities in it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's cool.
It is cool. You talked about military for a second, and the last couple of podcasts I've brought this up because in this book that I recommend all the time to you guys, it's called The Mysteries of the 12th Astrological House, Fallen Angels. This is one of Carmen's works, masterpieces. And, you always learn something from somebody else's perspective. I had never, of course, the 12th house, there's hidden pain, there's mental institutions, there's prisons, there's redemption, there's dreams, there's psychic intuitive, there's subconscious hidden stuff that's working on coming out through awareness. It's very Jungian, right? The 12th house. but one of the things I was like, huh, is you talk about how there's a lot of uniforms associated with
Yes.
this, like the nunneries, the
Yes.
military, the
People dress alike. People eat and sleep. The nuns, the monks, military. They all have to have a uniform. They salute each other. There's rules. It's like they all dress alike. It's that kind of, not a cult, but it's like that. Those like those monasteries. Like
Mhm.
away from mainstream of society, like where there's special community. It's
Yeah.
not like the normal world. And I never thought, like in my life, I've noticed a lot of people with 12th house planets, a lot of them go into the military, or they marry or are in a family that's military, where they travel and live in an overseas country.
Mhm.
The foreign thing with that. And so I married an Air Force guy. So I was a military spouse for 20 years, and I moved all over the world with him. And we lived in Germany twice, and I got to travel and do all these things. And when I was growing up in Midwest in Missouri, I thought, I didn't even know what the military was. I didn't know what the Air Force was. I never thought I'd ever go to another country, right? And I ended up marrying a military guy, and we've been, and he retired now, and we're settled here near St. Louis, Missouri now. But I would have never got those experiences. And so I just meet a lot of people that, they're married to military, they've lived in other countries, or their parents are military, they had to move a lot, and they got 12th house, especially ninth house. I have Mars in the ninth house. And
Mhm.
so I think that was part of it as well. Living in, that foreign travel and stuff, but I never saw it happening through my marrying someone. And so I had to learn that, and it really was interesting, because it just all was meant to be. That I met him. I mean, we married, and I met him in February 99. And the only reason I went out with him, this is an astrology thing, it's pretty cool, is that my friend had been trying to set me up on a blind date. And I had got out of some bad relationships with some Aries. I had 3 Aries that broke my heart. They were I always dated Aries, and
Mhm.
the moon's Aries, and so I
Mhm.
draw them, and but never worked out. And I'm like, listen, find out his birthday. I said, if they're an Aries, I'm not going out with them. That's what I told her. The Earth sign, I told her I'm too much Virgo, and so she went and found out his birthday, and she said, "You're not gonna believe this. He's born the same day as you, August 26th."
Whoa.
I said, "No way." She said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, what year?" She said, 1970. So he was 5 years older. And I said, "I'll meet him. I'll go ahead and meet him." So I had no idea what he looked like or anything. Met him at a restaurant in St. Louis. We dated for about a month or two. He asked me to marry him. We got married within 6 months, moved to Germany, and then there it goes. And
There
now,
it goes. I got full body chill bumps.
in my
So,
crazy.
some of our friends in the comments, I just want to, for anybody watching live, I just want to acknowledge and say hi to Marilyn, hi to P.
Hi.
Revere, hi to Lisa and Nadine, and Anne is here. And Marilyn had a good comment. She said, "Yeah, blind date, 12th house." So
Right?
that was cute.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And then my daughter was supposed to be born in, at least she's supposed to be a Libra. She was supposed to be born October of 2004. And the whole time I knew she was going to be a Virgo. I knew she wasn't going to, and I ended up having a kidney issue. Long story, had to have a C-section about a month early. And she was born, she missed our birthday by 1 hour. She was born on August 25th at 11:42 p.m. And the doctor's like, "I wish I could wait, and then you all would have the same birthday, but we had to get the baby out right." So I'm like, dang. So, but you can't forget each other's birthdays, but she's a Virgo too. So I have a house of Virgos. And then my pup is a Cancer. So she's a mama's girl. She's on my lap right now, by the way. She won't move. So
Yes, yeah.
but no, I love that. I think a Virgo, people always say Virgo and Virgo is not a good deal, but it is with me and him, because he's got a Cancer moon, and I'm an Aries moon. He's a Gemini rising, I'm Mars and Gemini. So there's compatibility that's there. And
Mhm.
but we're alike, and my daughter, we're all three, like our alone time. So we each have our little space in the house. We would go and be quiet, do our thing. So we give each other space, and it works. I think that I learned my lessons in love with that Venus in the 12th house,
Mm.
at an early age. And it was hard, and I was very idealistic about things. And I thought, you know what? what I liked about my husband when after we met, I was in grad school. I was getting ready to graduate, and he'd come over to my apartment, and I remember he would do my laundry. And I'm like, gosh, I come back to and my laundry's all folded up and neatly. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never had a man do
This
my
is love.
fold up my laundry and stuff. He did the dishes. Like what? And so I'm like Virgo. I mean, and we both play basketball, so we had that in common. So we would play basketball with some of my friends from my hometown, and so we were friends, and it just worked out. We've been married. It'll be 25 years this June. And
Wow.
so but yeah, it's crazy because I don't feel like I'm that old that I've been married that long, but it's crazy. But my daughter's 19. She's in college, but she is all earth. She's a, Virgo sun, Capricorn moon in the ninth, and then she's Taurus rising.
Mm-hmm.
And she lived in Germany. So that moon and Chiron in the ninth house, she ended up living in a foreign country with us when she was 7.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can see some of these cool energies play out in a chart, with living overseas and all these different things, right? It's really neat. It's really neat.
Totally. Yeah. And okay, you said so your husband is Gemini rising, so his chart ruler is Mercury, also rules Virgo. What is your rising sign?
Virgo.
Virgo. Virgo
Virgo,
rising.
Virgo
Okay.
sun, Virgo Venus, Virgo Mercury. And then I got Moon, Aries, Jupiter, Chiron all conjunct in the 8th.
Okay.
And then, Mars and Gemini in the 9th.
Okay.
And I'm North Node Scorpio, South Node Taurus. And I got Pluto in the 1st house. My Neptune's in the 3rd house, square my Sun and my Venus, which was not good. Figured that out, seeing things clearly, trusting my intuition, trusting my, having boundaries. That was big for my 12th house energy. And the 8th house helped me too, I think, with the Aries, because it helped me just keep going. I think having Aries is a blessing in your chart because it gives you that survival instinct, to keep going and not give up. And they kind of bounce back quick from things. So I think having Aries in my 8th house has really helped me in a lot of ways, honestly.
Yeah.
It balance out all that 12th house Virgo stuff, but
you're actually the example for Aries moon in a class I'm teaching tomorrow. I have you in some of the bio and the stuff that I was reading through here because I thought it was such a good example of an Aries moon. Whether you have, I'm going to talk about this one and then we're going to switch. But before we leave this 12th house book, and the idea of the 12th house, you can think of 12th house shows us where we have addiction tendencies. It shows us where we have, also our psychic tendencies, our service tendencies, and and secrets, of course. And one of the things that I really loved about this book is it's not just, it really addresses the truth of all of it. And it gives you, she goes through not only the 12th house stuff, but where Neptune is. Yeah. And so if you have Neptune and where Pluto is, and what I do with my astrology books is I write down who has that. So Saturn in the 12th, I have a couple of clients with Saturn in the 12th, and it helps me just take it in a new way whenever I'm studying stuff again. So I highly recommend you write all over your books and keep them for yourself so that you can, use it as a study guide. I have Uranus in the 12th. I have Sun in the 12th. And as I started reading and learning more from Carmen's lens with the tools of how to actually work with this, not just what they mean for you, but what can you do? I wanted to recommend this for anybody that's had a broken heart, that has had a really hard time getting through it, because sometimes with addictive personality, sometimes with mystical experiences and intuitive gifts, you feel like everything is fated. You feel like everything is karmic. And you have a really hard time getting over some stuff, and your family can't understand it, and your friends can't, and your therapist can't, and your sponsor can't. And there's a reason for that I thought was really beautifully laid out. So whether you have 12th house stuff or not, if you have had a difficult breakup, I would recommend this as a resource as well, helping you find your kind of spiritual path with that. because you shouldn't try to get over stuff quickly. So people that are telling you to do that, it's not going to be helpful to you because you're not going to get over it quickly. So this
Exactly.
is such a good
Exactly.
resource. Yeah.
At time, it's kind of like, I used to hate it when people would say this to me, but I realize it's true. Like that saying, time heals all wounds.
Yeah.
It really does help us heal. It helps us forget a little bit, I think, too, and helps us detach from the pain. Not that we're ever going to completely forget what happened, but with time,
Mhm.
how I've gotten over things. And sometimes it took 4 years. I mean, for me to really feel like I was over something. And
Mhm.
some of that I think's eighth house. We like eighth house people like to hold on to stuff and repress it and hard to let go, of things. And I
Yeah.
think, it's the idealism of love. I realized that a lot of 12th house people, when I started doing my research about my own life and then just others that I've done charts for, the
Mhm.
common pattern was that they just felt like that it was like destiny,
Mhm.
like I'm meant to be. There's karma with this person, or they're my twin flame, or this is the same pattern I'd hear, and then it would always end up where they're hurt or they feel abandoned, they
Mhm.
feel used, they feel just cheated on or whatever, or not loved back,
Mhm.
and kind of these patterns of unrequited love, not being able to find someone that loves them like they love. And so that's why I call 12th house people fallen angels.
Mhm.
It's not a bad thing, and it's not a biblical thing. People ask me, like, I don't like fallen angels. That's negative. No, it's not. What it means is that 12th house people have one foot in the mystical, one foot in the material world. Like, we
Mhm.
live in both worlds. We're
Mhm.
not we're not from here, and we know it from a young age. So we're like little angels that fell to this lower realm, and we're like, oh, this hurts. We're in a body, and oh, people are not nice here, right? And so you start learning, oh, I'm too open here. I need to have some boundaries. So they're fallen angels, which means that they're here to help people and be a service to the world,
Mhm.
but they're not from here. That's why I call them fallen angels. They fell here, kind of like the movie of City of Angels with Nicolas Cage. That's always what he gave up being an angel because he was in love with Meg Ryan, right? And he fell to earth, and that's the 12th house kind of energy, where love and having love and spiritual connections become very important to
Mhm.
them, that they can neglect and sacrifice themselves for other people, and even get in unhealthy relationships with narcissistic people, or whatever. And
Mhm.
then they have to learn through having a little bit of suffering, and that's associated with the 12th, and sorrow. But it's all about boundaries. It's all about boundaries. Yeah. And Saturn in the 12th. Yeah. And the sun, there's a lot of patterns there with the father figure, like a feeling of an absent, missing father figure.
Mhm.
I had like 100 charts. I did a research study. I'm going to have an article. It should be in I think it's coming out in a magazine this year. I can't remember which one, but I did a research study. I did a random selection of 100 charts of 12th house sun, moon, Saturn, and I had different patterns that I asked. Then one of the number one patterns was a feeling of an absent, missing parent. And
Mhm.
typically it's the father figure if the sun is there, or Saturn. Sometimes the moon there could be the mother, but often the moon there's a little different. The moon, there's like a feeling of the mom and daughter, or the parent child is flipped, like the
Mhm.
child feels like they're the parent of the mother. I find is a pattern when the moon is in the 12th. And then when the sun is there, even if the dad was in the home, you
Mhm.
feel like, especially when you're younger, that there's like a detachment. There's
Mhm.
not a strong father energy connection, like people say, oh, my dad gave me advice, my dad was always there for me. They don't have that commonly. So out of 100 charts, 99 of them said they had the absent, missing father figure pattern.
That's a
And I
lot.
these Well, I didn't even know. I'm randomly in my group. Hey, do you want to share and answer these questions and share a chart with me? Share your experience. Do you have these patterns? And that's it. I mean, they're like, yes, yes to all. I mean, it was psychic dreams was another pattern. At least 99 of 100 of them had at least a dream one time that happened. They dreamed of the future.
Mhm.
So that's another pattern. And then the addiction thing. So I always
Mhm.
talk about this because addiction, sometimes, with the sun or moon there, the parent can have some type of an alcohol issue, or some type of an addiction. It could be love addiction, it could be work addiction, It
Mhm.
could be, addiction can be many things, not just drugs and alcohol. It
Mhm.
can be, internet addiction. I mean, it can be, all kinds of stuff, love addiction. So I find that addiction, those patterns can play out because 12th house people try to escape from the
Yep.
pain. They try to escape from the emotions they feel because they feel everything. So that escapist tendency is really to protect themselves, but they use different things to cope and numb their emotions.
Mhm.
And one of the things with alcohol is that I found, and and I always was very cautious about drinking alcohol because I knew I would probably like it, right? Because it relaxes me and it
Yeah.
makes me not be stressed, and I'm always like high tempo as a Virgo, and worry and anxiety, and I'm overanalyzing everything. So when I have a glass of wine, I'm like, I'm just relaxed. But that can become a crutch, you
Mhm.
know. And I talked to people that admitted to me that during COVID they started drinking every night wine,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
then it became like, like, well, I'm drinking every night, and it was like a pattern. But they
Mhm.
could give it up. I mean, they could go without drink without having, DTs or anything. They just it became a way to cope. Just like food
Yep.
addiction, whatever it is. And that's mine. I'm a stress eater. I like to eat, and so that's my 12th house thing. And I'm a South Node Taurus, so I love food anyway. But it's all that like escape from. It makes me feel better to have
Mhm.
a nice meal and a all this good food and go out to dinner. I love that. And so we all have our crutches. We all have things that we do. And so as 12th housers, they got to learn to find that fulfillment inside themselves, like to be their own soulmate, because
Totally.
they seek it in other people. And then what I started realizing too, at least for me, I had a psychic friend. She says, because I would meet people, I'd feel love for people that I met instantly,
Mhm.
and I thought it was love, and I'm like, oh, but I love them. And, it wasn't love. What it was is we get confused with, we feel people's pain
Mhm.
and we think it's love, like they need us. That's a 12th house thing, a Pisces thing too. People, a lot of Pisces, you're going to be a 12th houser. If you got a lot of Pisces, if you got a lot of Scorpio, you're going to feel like an eighth house, or you're going to resonate with these energies. But you want to rescue people. You want people to need you. It's like a spiritual mission that, in love and feeling this fated destiny, idealistic thing, is really us just feeling it's the spiritual psychic abilities of a 12th house. It
Mhm.
just means you feel people's karma. And
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that you're supposed to be married to them and be with them. It just means that you're feeling their pain. And when I realized that, and I realized it was true, is that when I felt a real strong connection with someone or a draw,
Mhm.
it was I felt their pain. And that's because 12th and 8th house people attract people that have pain and problems. They're
Mhm.
drawn to our energy because they're looking for healing. And so when you start, that's what the boundaries thing is so important. So like when I do charts for parents when they have little, kids, and they're like, my daughter has a stellium in the 12th. What are some tips? I'm like, hey, you're ahead of the game. You're doing her chart. Teach her about boundaries. Teach her about self-love. She doesn't have to help everybody and take on the world's problems.
Mhm.
I had a teacher say, why are you keep taking on other people's karma? You got your own, you know? And it's true. But
Right.
that's what people want to do, because we want to help people. We want to,
Right.
helpers and people in the helping professions. That's what we like. But we can neglect ourselves and then hurt our own lives in the process if we don't be healthy about it. So, but if you start thinking like, man, I realize that unconditional love, true love, is not romantic and this emotional high. That
Mhm.
that does not last. That fades. And I never believed that, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I've learned this lesson now through my life. And now I kind of know, it's who's there for you,
Mhm.
who is committed to you, who's there every day to help you when you need help. That's
Mhm.
what love is. It's loyalty, it's commitment, it's easy, it's stable. It
Mhm.
shouldn't be this unstable and healthy thing all the time. And
Yeah.
you got to have a balance, because if you think about it, all these love stories and all these movies, 12th housers love, like The Notebook, and all these things. I mean, I love it. I love watching those things. But the thing is, that's not always reality. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And we think, well, when you're married, it should always be romantic and passionate and sexual and all this stuff, intimate. They should be spiritual, and they should be, meditating with me and, doing everything I do. No, no, no. So if, I know now, if I would have married some of those people I had dated, those Aries back in the day, I would have never pursued my spiritual path, because I made my relationship with them was my everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because of how they made me feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I would not have been able to do what I was meant to come here to do. So we all are meant to be who we're meant to be with, or have these experiences to teach us things, and I believe it's in our charts too, and but Venus in the 12th can be hard, but one of the blessings of it is it blesses you with you can find love through God and a higher power, and through helping others and being creative and artistic and pursuing what makes you happy, and bringing and having peace and harmony. And that to me is important, is having peace.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather have peace than complete chaos in my life, especially your home life. You need your fourth house in the chart needs to be stable. If you have a hard fourth house, I find, like Pluto, Uranus, or just a lot of changes and upheaval in the home life, that can be hard. Like, our home needs to be our castle, our safe haven.
Yeah.
And who you're married to and is a big deal, and who you live with. And so you need to have that set, and you need to know who's a good match for you, right? So that's why you need to ask an astrologer,
Right.
who's good for me and who's the best match all around, to support my whole chart and my goals and everything, right?
And when's the best day to get married, right? Like I have this idea to do like a marriage article just through the sun season, because everybody wants to get married in May or October, and I'm like, okay, well, let's think about the benefits of when the sun's in Libra. That's interesting to think about. When the sun's in Taurus, that's interesting to think about. There's much more to it than sun sign. But I want to offer a couple of questions for you. One of our friends here with Saturn in the 12th house just wanted to validate what you were saying, because her biological dad gave her up for adoption, and so she was never adopted. She never was her adopted dad's real daughter, even though he loved her. She has that. She just wanted to share that. One question we missed that I think is a brilliant question is about what about an interception with the 12th and 6th, or even 8th and 2nd? So I love that question, because I read interceptions, and I would love to learn from you what your take is when there's an interception there.
Yeah, I definitely, I was just talking about this last night in a class about, polarities. Like, it's definitely, you always got to look at the polar opposite house, when you're looking at it. Like, if someone has a stellium in the 6th house, it's going to open up and awaken that opposite house, that 12th house. So you're going to have that. And same with when a planet is transiting a certain house, like the 6th, it's going to awaken the 12th. Or when a planet's transiting the 12th, it's going to awaken the 6th. There's a connection. It's like the polarity, it's the energy. They're connected, absolutely, those opposite houses. And same with the 8th in the 2nd house. And so I find, like, when you look at the new moon, the new moon in Aquarius today and everything. So, whatever house the new moon is affecting in your transit chart, you're going to want to look at the opposite house, right? Because it's going to also bring issues in learning and maybe intentions that you can raise for that opposite house. So absolutely, it's important in looking at the polarity signs, Virgo, if you're a Virgo, the Pisces stuff, if you're a Scorpio, the Taurus. So we're always kind of in this balance of polar energy, I do believe it's very important to look at the opposite house, because, when I had Pluto going through my 4th house transit years ago, it affected my 10th house career. Absolutely. My work, and I moved a lot. I had to give up jobs. I couldn't get a job. It affects both. It really does. And somebody asked about celebrities. Yeah, that I was just researching this the other day. Yeah, there's a lot of celebrities that have 12th house. A politician specifically, President Biden is a 12th house sun. And then George Bush, George W., I believe he was a 12th house sun. And so there are a lot of political.
Trump has a Mars 12th house, I believe.
Yeah, I think he has a little bit of 12th house too. So absolutely. And you know what? That is one thing that I am learning. And with the 12th house, it's a lot of times you'll read that it's hidden and secretive, and you like to be behind the scenes. Now, that's very much an 8th house thing, but I find also they're similar, the 8th and 12th houses, in a different way. Like 8th house secrets are secrets that like it, but no one says anything because it's like taboo. Like, oh no, don't tell everybody that Uncle Johnny's having an affair with, with somebody from work, and the kids are like, Mom, is Uncle Johnny, no, you're wrong, and so the 8th house's like, but I know, so
Right.
they know things. They see the truth and see through the bull crap and lies around them, but they hide, and they see the truth. Where 12th house planets are like a fog, they're like a mist, and we're blinded. So with secrets in the 12th house, we don't really know them. Like, we don't see them. Like, it's like they're hidden with Neptune, energy, right? So I find that's kind of the difference of the secrets. And but with the 8th house, people are more private, in my opinion. They don't trust as easily. And they like to protect themselves more. That Scorpio energy, where 12th housers are very trusting, and they typically are too open about and being honest who they're, right, and sharing their emotions, sharing their thoughts, and they trust everyone. And then they get hurt, and then they can feel like a victim. And then they get into, I have enemies and all this stuff, right? Secret enemies. I always get asked about that. I'm like, some of that is that 12th house people are very much like mirrors. Like, their energy is very mystical, and it draws people, but it also kind of mirrors people's issues back at them. Like, 12th house people, just being in your presence, other people can feel uncomfortable because it's like they see this part of themselves in you or something. And then, if they're not okay with that, then they may lash out, or they may not treat you right. And it's not your fault. You haven't done anything. It's just the energy of 12th house, having planets there. But I find that the 12th house too sometimes forces people into the public eye. We could do a whole show about celebrity 12th house charts. I mean, if you want to, let me know. I'll come back on. But
yeah, absolutely.
Pull them up and we'll dig in. I love that. And because there's a lot of them are forced into the limelight, because I think Joe Biden is a Scorpio, but he's a 12th house sun. And I mean, he's out in the public. I don't think he probably likes it, though. I would think he doesn't really like to be out on the news. He's not out on the news as much as other presidents are. You know what I mean? If you think about it.
That's true.
He likes to be behind the scenes more, but and that Scorpio probably interferes with that too. But yeah, absolutely. Like with me, for instance, like I used to be very shy. I had a lot of Virgo, and I have a lot of 8th house, which is like behind the scene. Like I didn't want to, and my job forced me to have to brief and train large groups of people at my normal job, and very stressful, where I have to get in front of a bunch of people and talk, and I had to get comfortable with that, and I was forced out, so to speak, in the positions I've had in my normal job. But you get more comfortable with it. But right before I do it, my stomach is nervous, and I'm like, I don't want to get up here. But once I like to teach, but I rather like this, like virtual, like when if I know someone in the crowd, I get nervous. If I don't know anyone, I can just get up there and talk. But if I know somebody, then I get a little weird. I get like, they're in here. I hope they're not, I hope I'm doing this right. Right. And you start getting, all these things. But no, a lot of 12th house people can get forced out into the public arena. Maybe a leadership role at work, or they have to train people and teach in front of groups and be in the public and in front of a group, which can be hard for them because they like more behind the scene one-on-one and all that. And then I see someone's asking about
before you move on, I want to offer a couple of examples for 12th house people in the limelight, like you're talking about, just to support what you're saying. Obama had Saturn in Capricorn in the 12th, and Jupiter in Aquarius in the 12th. And so if you think about Saturn into the 12th, and the Capricorn, Jupiter and Pisces and all, like that type of energy, the Dreams of His Father was a book that he wrote, right? Then I've got two more. Let's see. Not Oprah, Donald Trump. Yeah, he does. He has Pluto and Mars in his 12th house in Leo. So there's another public figure. And then Martin Luther King has Uranus, Jupiter, and Chiron in his 12th house, and his sun, and Saturn in the 8th. So MLK is a good study of this 12th, 8th house energy, this religious leader who really went to the depths and to bring out issues for the country to explore together. Yeah. So, and when I was reading your book, and I went, because like I said, I want to make all these notes, like, like all my loved ones and where their things are, and look at it through this lens again. Yeah. Carmen, I found one client that has 5 planets in the 12th house, and she presents as Aries. She's a friend of mine. Sure. She is Aries, but her whole life it's just been like Aries, 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 or I'm this way because Aries, Yeah. And people like respect that about her and love that about her. However, when I went back to look at her chart, I'm like, forget that story for a minute. Let's talk about this 5 planets in the 12th house. And so,
and Aries, see, Aries helps. When Aries is in the 12th or 8th, it helps. It's kind of a protection, in my opinion, because it makes them, it's more of an assertive, confident energy that they don't give up. So if they go through these hard experiences, they just keep going. They just keep getting up and dust themselves off, and I'm moving forward. So I feel like Aries really is a blessing to have in the 8th and 12th, honestly. So it's interesting. I've seen that too, and I'm like, man, that Aries has really helped you, because you'll hear their story, and they've been through a lot of hard times.
Yeah, and a lot.
They're resilient. Yes. Aries, in my opinion, is the most resilient energy in all the signs. The resiliency. Mm-hmm. It's like Xena the warrior prince. I mean, they don't give up, and they're like, I'm very into that, like resiliency, like tapping into each sign's resilient strengths. What helps you overcome grief and loss and trauma? What in the chart helps? Every sign has its strengths and weaknesses, but Aries energy is, to me, one of the most resilient. That means they overcome things quickly and can move forward easily compared to other signs. That's just my opinion from knowing and doing charts and stuff. But yeah, that's cool. And who else is 12th house Sun and Venus, I believe, is the actress Meryl Streep.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Somebody
told me. Have it. I don't know if everybody caught that, but Carmen is Sun and Venus 12th house.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I always loved to do, when I was in social work school, we'd have to act out and pretend to do, be a patient and all this stuff. And I had a professor said, you missed your calling. You should have been an actress. She told me, because I can really get into it. I love to act, and I just never did theater or anything like that, but I love that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Movies. I love learning about actors and actresses. I love celebrity stuff. I remember stuff about celebrities. I'm like, how do I know this? Like, I just remember stuff like that. The charts, their lives, what's going on. And it's really neat to look and see, what's going on in their charts and things. And then I saw somebody asked about, what, that's funny, Nadine. That's how I found out, is that I had 3 people tell me that I look like Meryl Streep. And I'm like, what? And this is like, maybe 8 years ago. And I looked at old pictures, and there is kind of a similar, I believe she's a Cancer Sun and Venus, and I'm Virgo for Sun and Venus, but everyone would say, you look like Meryl Streep. And then it was crazy that she had 12th house Sun and Venus. I thought it was kind of cool.
It is.
Yeah, I've been told I look like her a little bit. That's weird. And then, but someone asked about forensics, like
yeah.
I haven't really dug into that. Now I've looked in, serial killers or criminals charts. I've been interested in that, and I love crime drama. I'm 8th house. I love about watching mysteries and solving crimes, and all these kind of things, true crime and Mindhunter. I watched that on Netflix about how the first FBI, how they stood up the forensic psychology to figure out why our serial killers the way they are, all those kind of shows. But no, I don't do forensic astrology myself, but I do, look at different patterns and stuff, and charts, and it's interesting. But yeah, I believe that FBI, CIA, I'm sure they have astrologers. I bet they do, helping them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I'll do that job, if they want to recruit us, I'll do that.
Same. Hire us.
Right? Yeah.
I do offer forensic mediumship services, John, and so I can tell you that I will pull a horary chart for astrology at the moment that I hear of a missing persons case, and I'll use astrology in that way. But I don't ever use it to predict crimes or death or anything malevolent like that. And although you can see trauma in the chart for sure, you don't necessarily know how it plays out. Um, and yeah, okay. So we spent most of the time here, which is awesome. So if you get Carmen's book, The Mysteries of the 12th Astrological House, you can get it on Amazon, but please, 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 please leave a review. You have to promise us that you leave a review that's 5 stars because we want her book to go all the way up. And then I want to just spend a little time over here, but I want to be sensitive to your time. Can I have you for 5 or 10 more minutes?
Oh, yeah. I'm perfect. Yeah, no worries.
So she also has one that's blue that's called Sun Signs, and it's the same kind of vibe. And I want you to check out Carmen's YouTube too, because she goes through it very eloquently and succinctly. Very Virgo. My midheaven's in Virgo, so I love the
nice
approach. But this one, guys, it's so cool. So I flipped to Moon in Leo, for example. So she gives you kind of the basic breakdown, and then each moon has its own thing going on, how the full moon affects the Leo moon. Don't you want to know that, right? Finding passion, finding emotional fulfillment. Leo moon comfort, right? The moon is the part of our chart where we need comfort and emotional fulfillment and things like this. She's got Leo moon happiness, Leo moon transformation, Leo moon healing, Leo moon resiliency, Leo moon values, Leo moon self-care, and then self-care prompts and affirmations. And so each of the moon signs has this, and it's written in such a comforting way. Like here's Scorpio moon comfort. I'm Scorpio moon. It says Scorpio moons feel most comfortable when their emotional walls are up, right? Being vulnerable and trusting others can be scary, especially if Scorpio moons were hurt in the past. Maintaining privacy helps them feel safe, secure, and protected. But she goes on, Scorpio moon people like to plan, strategize, be prepared for what to expect in every such situation, right? And this is because they like having control over their decisions, right? And this comes when you see people that are controlling, right? The Cancers, Scorpios, like those types of placements, it's often because their lives were uncontrollable, right? And so when you see the psychology of somebody who comes from a place where everything was uncontrollable, there was abuse, there was trauma, there was something that happened, and it takes you on a spiritual journey, and it's those moments when you feel like your life is totally uncontrollable that you get to a place of surrender and ask for help from a higher power, right? So she talks about Scorpio moon happiness. I mean, it's such a great, it is not your normal book on the moons. So don't think that it's just going to tell you what your natal moon's about, because you can find that information anywhere. The reason you like Carmen's work is because she adds a psychological element with real help, actual tools, right? The mantras are good. There's just, and this is how you love your people, you know? So it's like, if you're like, this is such a good parenting guide too, right? If you know your kid, you're a fire moon and they're a water moon, right? You're going to have to comfort them a lot differently than you like to be comforted. And so learning your kids, learning your clients, learning your loved ones, just for the purpose of having better emotional connection and relationship, not for the purpose of controlling or manipulating. But this is just such a good resource. And Marilyn says she's ordering the book now. Awesome. Review it on Amazon. and check out her other books.
I love the moon. The moon is to me one of the most important placements in our chart, because it's your emotional nature, it's your passion, it's where you find emotional fulfillment, it's where you find your happiness, it's where you find comfort and stability. The moon is so critical. I mean, it's your inner nature, it's your intuition, it's your, all of that. And I talk a little bit about self-care too, how you can self-care. Because the moon, I kind of link the moon in the introduction. I go through the basics. It's very, very easy to read, very basic. I talk about like Maslow's pyramid, like the hierarchy of needs. Yeah. And the moon is connected to our needs. our what we need to feel secure in the world. And so some moon signs like change and excitement, like they're cool with that, like that's what they thrive on. Like other moon signs, like Taurus, they're going to want to have stability, and they're not going to want a ton of change, and they're going to need to have money in the bank and have a good job in the basic, lower pyramid needs. And then, some of the other signs are, like self-actualization, they're into spirituality. They're up here on the pyramid. And so, yeah. So, that it's really important, to kind of link that with self-care, because one of the biggest things I noticed, in being a social worker, working with victim advocates, working with people that have, that are serving others. I took a class on leadership, and this was like about a year and a half ago. And there's all these like very successful business owners in the community, like that run United Way, that are running these social service agencies in St. Louis. And we all could ask them one question, and we got to meet with each of them. And when I met with each of them, I asked them one thing: how do you do self-care? And I'll tell you what, none of them could answer me.
Yeah.
They said, listen, I'm not good at that. And they're like make tons of money. They own all these businesses, but they're workaholics, And so I'm like, they're like, that's a good question. My daughter says I need to do better at that, or I need to take vacations. And they could not answer how they self-care. That's the issue with people in the counseling field and help and professions and spiritual work. Anything you're doing with people, is that you cannot keep filling up other people's cups and not have your cup full, because you will get sick.
You will. Sixth house, opposite and complementary medicine.
Sixth house, 12th house people constantly tell me they have health issues. And I've had health issues. Yeah. And I know it's because I'm not taking care of I'm not eating right. I'm not exercising. I'm stressing out. I'm working too much. You got to have a balance. So I put some self-care stuff in there to remind us. And I got to take my own advice on this too, guys. I mean, people say, Carmen, I feel like I can take leave because I saw you took leave on a Friday. I'm like, absolutely. Like we got to be role models, right? For people, it's like walk the walk and talk the talk, I mean, we can teach this stuff, but we got to implement it in our own lives. Like, I mean, I know this stuff works, self-care works, but you got to actually do it,
It is hard for me to take time off. I'm just putting the link to your book there because people are trying to order it. So let me get that in the.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I like right now my schedule's booked out through middle of March. And so that's hard when somebody's like seeking help and they need you in the moment. But you also have to take your personal time, and it's that it is a struggle, because you do, like, if your mission is to serve people and be helpful, to take self-care time off, it's like, it's just hard because you're coming back into people that have trauma are in severe difficulties. And so, just to keep holding that ground and doing self-care, putting the oxygen mask on first, I think is really good advice for 12th and 8th house people for sure.
And you're Virgo midheaven, which means you're a doer. You're efficient. You want to get things done and accomplished. I'm the same way, and we take on a lot of projects.
Yeah,
and so we're constantly juggling and multitasking. Yeah, I've been seeing all your posts, all the things you're doing. She got to have some Virgo in there somewhere too. So yeah, I mean, and that's Virgos. That's who people go to get things done. And organized and accomplished and done. So yeah, it's important to self-care. It's funny because with the moon signs, often the moon sign often shows how we interpreted or perceived our mother, or their energy. And my daughter, she's a Capricorn moon, and so she was reading stuff. She's like, Mom, Capricorn moons are negative. It's a bad thing. I'm like, no, it's not. I said, do you? And then I asked her, do you feel like cold and strict and all this? She said, no, you're like, because but it's like what you said earlier, how she does not receive love the way I do. So I'm very affectionate. I want to hug her, and she's like, well, don't touch me. It's like Capricorn, that Capricorn moon. Like, she doesn't want touch. She's like not a toucher, a physical. And to her, she's just rather me do something for her, or talk to her, do something to help her, whatever. But she's not a hugger, and I'm a hugger. I'm very affectionate. And so I had to learn that, the Capricorn moon, she's not going to be comfortable with me trying. I'm like, can I give you a hug? So I asked permission. now that she's a teen, because when she was little, she was different. And then when they get about tween age, they start getting their own personality. So now she tells me, Mom, I'm definitely a Capricorn moon. She came home from college. I said, why? She goes, all you do is work. She said, you're always working. You're always on the computer doing something. I said, yeah. I said, but I spend time with you. She goes, you do, but you're always working. Like, so she's starting to see, and it kind of made me think, and I'm like, so I'm trying when she comes home now, not to try to not have anything booked on the weekend.
Yeah.
Because she comes home on the weekends sometimes from college. And so she's coming home next weekend and I have no clients scheduled. I'm not doing any classes. I'm like, we're just going to hang out, me and you, and I'm not going to get on the computer, which is going to be very hard for me.
Yeah.
Because when we're chilling, watching a movie, I like being on my laptop and I'll be getting
Totally.
stuff done.
Yes.
Multitasking. And she's like, you're on your laptop. I'm like, okay, so so it's funny how our kids perceive us and with their moon sign. She just, and that's a Capricorn, a workaholic. I don't want my daughter to think I'm a workaholic. I want her to see that I have a good balance. So because I don't want her to turn out and be like that and not have self-care. You know what I mean?
Or oppositely resent it and not work, like go the other direction too.
Yes.
Totally too.
Yeah. Yeah. And we are who we are. But you learn through your kids too, with their so she perceived me as organized and doing a bunch of stuff all the time, which I was like a single parent because he was deployed a lot. And so I had to run her to games. I had to get her to school. I was the room mom. I was working full time. Yeah. So that's just what I did,
Yeah.
and, but it's fun. It's fun. She's 19 now. So she's an adult and she wanted a tattoo. And my husband was against it, and she went and tried to hide it. And she said, it's my body, it's my leg, and no one's going to see it anyway. And I said, you're absolutely right. I'm not going to be looking at your leg. You can do whatever you want, but you have to let them go and do their thing, but she's very artistic, very creative. So I just let her do her thing and tell my husband, just let it go. She's an adult. She's 19,
Yeah. Yeah, my babies are 20 and 18, and so it's kind of the same process. It's my daughter has a double nose ring. It looks beautiful on her. We allowed it before she was 18. I said no tattoos before you're 18. I don't have tattoos.
I don't either.
I have a Scorpio moon though, and so I'm just like, I feel the same way you do. It's completely your body, and there's no like that judgment on it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, yeah, that's a whole other topic. Tattoos in the 8th and 12th house.
Yes.
I want you to know that we have 3 people that Marilyn's ordered your moon book. Let's see, Anastasia has also ordered one of your books and ordered the 12th house book. So people are loving it. And then I see that somebody's asking that they would like to register for your course over at Kepler, but they don't know much astrology yet. You got to start somewhere, and you want to find a teacher that you resonate with. And so I don't want to answer your question for you, Carmen, but I do want to say it's okay to jump in and start somewhere. You don't have to learn all the basics to enjoy Carmen's class, in my opinion, because it's hyper focused on 2 pieces. So you're going to get like more education in one area, but it's such a language. It's a lifetime study. And so I would say if you're interested and Carmen is vibing for you and you're liking her style, go take as many classes as you can from her. Just immerse yourself in that. But Connie's buying the books. Awesome.
Thank you, Connie.
This turned into like a book frenzy. This is awesome. But people are thirsty for this type of information. So thank you for honoring your life's work and writing it. But what do you think? Can people take your classes without much astrology?
Yeah, this one I'm developing for Kepler, I'm really excited because it's going to be 5 weeks, and we're going to get into all the basics. You're not going to be lost. You're going to learn all about the 8th house and 12th houses and their energy. And you're going to learn, I have videos, I have movie clips to show the different energies. Like I'm going all out, like for you guys to have stuff to review and read and videos, and it's going to be fun. And we'll look at charts, we'll pull famous people up, and it'll be very, it's not going to be complex and confusing. It's going to be very basic, and it's going to be deep. And we'll get into the energy of it and the healing of it and the spiritual gifts of these houses. And people's experiences with these houses, and it'll be really nice. To me, it's kind of like a support group with, and we're going to dig into all of the energies and issues of those houses, and I'm going to teach everybody about it. If you don't know, you'll learn all about it.
Perfect. That's awesome. Okay, did we miss anything that you feel like we should really touch base on? I mean, we talked about fallen angels, but can you also talk, I'm going back, can you also talk about why you use the word phoenixes in your work?
Yeah, one of my other newer books is called Phoenixes and Angels, and I wrote it about both the 8th and 12th houses. So to me, the 8th house is ruled by Scorpio, and that energy of the 8th is all about transformation, rebirth, healing, healing from trauma, overcoming the past, letting go, releasing. It's like Pluto, energy there of this intense power control issues, jealousy, anything that's taboo, sexuality, intimacy, all of that is 8th house. And so to me, 8th house people, the energy is like a phoenix, because it's like they go through these death and rebirths throughout their life, where they wake up and they're like, they don't think the same, they don't feel the same, they want to change how they look, or they just feel like something died. And I remember feeling like something died, and it's hard to explain that to somebody with your words. It's like an energy thing. And so I connected it to the phoenix bird, where in the Harry Potter movie, where the bird just blows up, and Dumbledore's like, it's about time. It's like 8th house people just absorb and absorb and absorb, and they're so psychic and so connected to energy, and then it's stagnant. So the only thing they can do is purge it. And so the purging to me is the symbol of a phoenix that comes, it dies in its ashes, and it's born a new bird. The other symbolism is really the butterfly. And, and when it's in that cocoon, it looks pretty nasty. I mean, it's like it's death. You know what I mean? But when that butterfly pops out of that cocoon, it's a beautiful new creature. And that's kind of I wrote a little article, it's in my Phoenixes Angels book, about butterflies and the whole process of that with the 8th house. And so those rebirth, and that's the kind of energy of it where you have to change. Change is an 8th house thing, and it's emotional rebirths too, physical rebirths, and it's about healing. Most people that have 8th house planets are drawn to healing or energy work, or they're very sensitive to energy, or they're drawn to psychology, forensic psychology, FBI agents, first responders, firefighters, police officers, detectives, solving crimes, digging deep, researching, finding the bad guy, right? Healing people, helping people heal trauma, sexual abuse, all that stuff, death, loss. A lot of people I talk to that have 8th house sun or moon are like, they're deafists. They work with families that have, they're funeral home directors, they're morticians. They work with death all the time. And that's 8th house stuff. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to acknowledge, Connie, too, what you're saying, that interesting about the Scorpio moon doesn't normally like change, of course, and that you've got Leo rising and a moon in Scorpio, and that you love change, and that your whole chart is like paints a much bigger picture, as you know, because I know you study astrology. I have a moon in Scorpio, but I have a lot of Scorpio. I have 4 planets in Scorpio over in my 12th house, right? So it's that 8th house energy in the 12th house. And so my experience, right, with the fixed energy, with the fixed signs, which are Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, Leo, right? This is the joke I make all the time about, like, we know what we're getting at the restaurant. Like, we're not going to look at the menu and see what feels good. Like, we're going because we know what we want there. And so it doesn't mean that we never want change. It means that, that there's this fixed pattern and this fixed rhythm that's available to work with. Some of it needs to be overcome so that it's not so controlling and rigid. Some of it's there, like the phoenix that Carmen was just talking about, that is changing and transmuting and has a dark night of the soul and has a shamanic rebirth. You know what I mean? And so you can get addicted to those too. Like, you can see the addiction patterns into that rebirth cycle, and it's the next shaman, and it's the next trip to Peru, and it's the next thing that, it's always needing more, more, more. And so this finding satiation with those things can come from awareness of studying your chart for sure. So I'm excited because I know Connie's coming with me on my Tulum trip. Anne's here. She's coming with me on my Tulum trip. We are going to have an awesome time. I want to acknowledge Rachel and Kimberly and Anastasia that have shared some of your chart placements. And thank you for everybody that has come.
Thanks for having me. I had a great time. Thank you for buying my books. Thanks for having me. And let me know if you want to do it again. Yeah, well,
I do. Let's do it again. I have some ideas, and I look forward to your class. Will you tell us the dates that are coming up? When is this?
Yeah, so the Kepler class starts on, it's going to start Sundays, March 24th.
Okay.
Sunday, and it's going to be, they have it on Pacific time, but I think Central time will be 12 to 2, I believe. And I think it's 10 p.m. Pacific Standard, and it's 5 Sundays in a row. So it's like March 24th, March 31st, then it's April, for 5 sessions at the same time on Zoom. There's a discounted price that Kepler has on their website. So you can sign up for a little discount right now, and then you'll be in the course. And I'm developing it now, getting everything ready. There's going to be a lot of handouts, a lot of videos to watch, different things. It's going to be, I'm really excited about it. Yeah.
And then I want you to talk a little bit about your 12th house group.
Sure.
And I'll put that up too.
Thank you. Yeah, I started when Facebook was pretty new. I started one of the original astrology groups, which is the 12th astrological house, and I got almost 17,000 people that are members in there, and it's been one of my favorite groups I've ran since I think it was like 2010 maybe or something when we started the group. So I got alumni in there that have been with me since the creation of the group, and I got like 1,000 requests right now. So if you want to join, I just make sure people actually answer all the questions and let me know that you saw me on here or whatever, and I'll let you into the group. Okay. And so it's fun and it's very active and people help each other. It's very supportive. It's like a support group. I've tried to keep it very safe, very supportive. So I've had to remove and block people because it's supposed to be a sacred shrine. I want it to be a safe, spiritual, supportive environment. And on social media, that's hard to do with these Facebook groups sometimes because you don't know who's joining. And sometimes they're robots. I think they're spam too, So I got great members that watch out and let me know if there's a bad comment or somebody's, not supporting, and we take care of it. But it's a great group, the 12th house, and I have an 8th house astrology group as well, Deep Soul Divers 8th house astrology group, but it's not as active. And I laugh about that because it's the energy of these houses. The 8th houses are behind the scenes just waiting for someone else to. They don't come out and post on their own. So I posted the other day and I'm like, hey, are you guys okay? What's going on? And then I started getting 100 and 200 comments. They're in there. They're just not posting first. Now the 12th house, everybody's posting and they're sharing and they're like, oh, I want to meet you. Oh, thank you. And they're helping each other. So it's very active. But so the 8th house, I have to be the one to post to get them out of their shell, to come out of hiding, kind of thing. But you got to laugh because it's the energy of these houses of people that have these planets. So it's funny, but no, welcome, join, and I appreciate it. And I'm happy to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So real quick before we go, I am teaching part of the content from this book tomorrow, which is the Lunar New Year in Chinese astrology, February 10th. If you guys use code DEZ, D-E-Z, you'll get $25 off. And we are going to go through the moon, through the houses. We're studying charts. We are looking at eclipses, the science, but also the woo-woo side of it and the royal family and some predictions with the eclipses. We're going into your moon mapping for the whole year and your lunar birth phase. But this is a main textbook I'm using all year long, not only in the class tomorrow, but also in the certification program I offer at the end of February through the end of April or May. And so this is a textbook I'm using all year. And I just thank you, Carmen. This has been so awesome. You're the best. Thank you for your work.
Thank you for supporting my work and utilizing your classes. That just means the world to me. Thank you so much. And thank you, Kimberly. I'm glad you love the book. I really appreciate it. I love you all. You
All
guys hang
right.
in there. Take care of yourselves. Yep.
That's great.
Do something fun this weekend.
That's right. That's right. Live a little.